I really have had a wonderful reading year. I just shared my favorites video in my past video, and I just had such a fun time reminiscing. But I also have read a few duds, a few not so great books, and so that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm a mom to 4. I love to homeschool. I love to read good books, and I love to share both of these things on this channel. So thank you for stopping by. And if you also love these things, please consider subscribing. So like I said, I read a ton of good books this year, and I would say it was a little hard to figure out which books I really didn't like, because I had the joy of picking up some just great books off of great recommendations, off of this being my first year on BookTube. There were so many good ones that I had somehow missed over the past 5 years that I got to read. So I wasn't really picking up books that I wasn't sure if I would like. I was pretty sure I would like them. So this list is shorter, and even some of the ones I pull up are more like 3-star reads, so they're not terrible, but they just weren't for me. So I'm going to share them with you anyway. So my plan is to kind of work from the lukewarm books to the really, really did not like books, and then tag on some DNFs, because clearly I didn't like those if I wouldn't even finish them. So let's hop in. So coming in at number 6 on my least favorite book list was A Bridge Across the Ocean by Susan Meisner. Generally what this book was about is it was a post-World War II book where the women who had found husbands, usually American soldiers, were all getting together and were going on a boat across the ocean. So they were deemed kind of war wives, and their husbands were waiting for them on the other side. We're following a couple main characters, a couple women, and one of them has a lot of secrets and a lot of past and a lot of things going on. So I gave this a 3-star, I think. So I didn't hate the book. I just think I walked in with far too high of expectations. I had read As Bright as Heaven, which was, spoiler alert, my number 1 of the year this year in 2020. So I was just expecting such good things from this book, and it was okay. It wasn't bad. I didn't love the characters. I didn't think they were well developed, and so I just wasn't really rooting for her as much. And then there was kind of this added ghostly element that I think the story could have done without. I didn't think it added enough to it to be of interest, or maybe I just don't really like that kind of a plot line in what I feel like was more of a historical fiction book. So that's the number 6. So it's my most favorite of all these books, I guess, is the best way to put it, but I still didn't really like it. Number 5 on my least favorite book list is The Death of Mrs Westaway by Ruth Ware. So this is the only Ruth Ware book I have read, and I've just heard a lot of hype around her as an author, and I have more. I think one by one right there, if you can see it. I have picked up that one. I really want to give that one a shot, but I just wasn't blown away. And maybe again, it's high expectations. I had heard such good things about Ruth Ware, but I didn't really know about this book. So this one is about a girl who's kind of down on her luck. She's poor. She has collection agency people after her, bounty hunters, something like that. And then she gets a letter in the mail that says, your grandma has died and you have inherited a bunch of money. Come to the house for the funeral and we will work it all out. But the catch here is she knows that's not her grandma, and she is so desperate that she just decides to pretend that she is the girl that they think she is, and she goes. And then the book centers around this mansion that's kind of a little dilapidated, so it has kind of a very gothic, atmospheric, old house, scary instances, mysteries, kind of dark things happening. So that all wasn't bad. Actually, that probably is what I liked the most about it, was the house and the atmosphere. I didn't like the book. I thought it was really predictable, and I'm not usually one to predict my mysteries. I'm often surprised. I often don't get it. And so, but I saw this one coming. It felt so predictable, and I did not like her character. I thought she was just not the smartest. It's a nicer way to put it, I guess. And it just if she could have just asked certain questions very early on, questions that anybody would have asked, there would not have been any kind of a mystery. And so that just bugged me. I was just Grr. So I didn't love this book. Maybe it was a 3-star. It's okay. Coming in at number 4 on this list is The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. I also had really high expectations for this book. It just sounded so interesting. It's basically about this man who starts his life over and over and over again, but he retains the memory of the previous lives. For a while, I feel like he didn't really care, didn't really try and impact anything, but then he realizes that there is somebody who's trying to like end the world or something dramatic like that, and he is more invested. The idea of that storyline was just so intriguing to me, and it still kind of is. What I didn't like about this book is it just drug on and on and on. It's like you got every detail from every 15 of his lives, and there were some lives that were just boring, and it didn't feel like they moved the plot forward too much or enough for me to stay invested still. So I just didn't like that. I felt like it could have been probably half or 3/4 of this size, and it would have been better. It wouldn't have felt like drudgery to pick it up. So I was kind of curious still as to how it was going to end. And even that, by the time I got there, I was just kind of meh about it, that I wasn't even that excited. So it could have just been shorter. I think that was my biggest problem with this. So anyway, that's on my least favorite book list. Next, some people are not going to like this. I did not like The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I picked it up as part of a book club, and I realized that I'm not quite used to kind of these epic fantasies, like a ton of world building, confusing sort of stuff going on, which is what I felt with this book from the page one. Was like I had no idea what was going on, and it didn't clarify it. And maybe I'm realizing that I need a little bit more clarification in my books. But probably the biggest thing that got to me about this book in particular was how it treated children, or the storyline behind some of the children, and just them getting so hurt before you even get to know any characters. You're hearing some just terrible things about a young child, and it just, oh, my mama heart couldn't handle it. And then the theme kind of kept going throughout the book in different ways, and I'm just like, I can't do this. It's kind of like, I don't know if any of you do this. Once I became a mom, I struggled to watch like kidnapping videos. Like I couldn't go to a movie that had to do with the central theme of kidnapping. I couldn't do it. It was just too real to me. It made things like, it was like my biggest nightmare come true sort of idea. And so a book like this that just had too much cruelty towards children was just too much for me. And so I think that in the end is why I didn't want to continue with the series, and I just donated the book, as I just couldn't do it. So anyway, that's on my least favorite book list. I know some of you just love that book, but that's okay. Okay, so number 2 on this list, so not my least favorite, but definitely up there, was the book Sapiens. I really wanted to like this book. So it's a nonfiction book about the history of humans on the planet. I enjoyed learning a little bit more about some of the like prehistory and what scientists believe happened with different groups of people as they moved around the globe and migrated and different things. I thought that was very interesting. Some of it didn't feel like they had enough evidence to kind of make some of the big statements they made, but that's okay. That doesn't bug me in a book. What I think bugged me about this book was it was gigantic. I have since donated it. It's gigantic, and it tried to cover too much. So it exited kind of that like prehistory sort of area, which I was the most interested in, and then it just covered so many things, like why were humans so successful, like community, money, farming, religion, all of these different things it covered, and it covered it in such detail that I thought maybe if it could have taken smaller bites and made different books, I would have been more interested because it was more targeted. But it was so overarching that maybe I got lost in the weeds. It wasn't, in my opinion, the best way to go about a book like that. But that's just my opinion, again. So anyway, that's number 2 on my least favorite worst books of the year. But coming in at number 1 for my least favorite book of the year is hands down Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Oh man, I talked about this in my fall wrap-up video. I did not like this book. I really liked Gone Girl, so I thought I was going to like this book a lot. And I did like the overall premise. I liked the plot and kind of the mystery, and once it was figured out in the end, I was like, oh, that was pretty clever. I thought that was interesting. It could have just been done without all the graphicness. The characters were unnecessarily messed up, if that makes sense. Like, I think based on their history and some of the things that happened to them, they would be a little messed up. I'm not like naive in that sense, but they were so messed up in so many ways that it was just like unbelievable. I guess it was unnecessary, in my opinion, the story could have been done better without all of that, and it would have still been an excellently told story. I just felt like that was like there for splash, but it was just so distasteful to me. So Sharp Objects, worst book of the year for me. But as for the books that I didn't finish, some of these were because I just wasn't liking them. Others were a little bit more like when I picked them up. So some of these I picked up during March. And so it was just a weird time to read. And I needed certain types of books to hold my attention, and these weren't it. So like, for instance, this is one of those that I picked up, and that's The Lady of the Rivers by Philippa Gregory. And I have yet to get through a Philippa Gregory book. I think for me, it's just the level of detail. There's not enough plot driving it forward. Like, I'm just not interested in all the kings and queens and lords and ladies. And this book centered more around the War of the Roses. So I think you're talking France and England, and this woman was kind of a central part in all of it. And I just didn't get far enough. And I'm not giving it away. See, I still have it, so I didn't hate it. I just couldn't get into it, and I'm just not sure if she's for me, but I have to make it to the end of the book, any of the books. But this one, I just feel like I picked it up at the wrong time. And same with this book, which I got from the library. So this is the Chocolate Chip Cookie Mystery, I think it is. You'll see here. And I picked this up because I wanted a cozy mystery. I've heard like a term, cozy mystery, and I've heard so many people really love those, and that just sounded so wonderful. Who doesn't want a book that's deemed cozy? And I picked it up, and I just feel like the writing was not very good. Cheesy is probably the best word for it. I felt they were really cheesy, and it depends if you're in the mood for cheesy. And I feel like there's times when I might be more in the mood for cheesy as opposed to like some serious World War II book. But March of 2020 wasn't the month for that. And so I just couldn't finish it. And I'm just not sure when I'll be in the mood to try again. So that's another one on my DNF. The next one was Revolution by Jennifer Donnelly. This was a part of a book club that I was a part of, and I had read These Shallow Graves by Jennifer Donnelly, and I really liked it. So I had high hopes for this book, which centered more around France and the Revolution, French Revolution. It was told through kind of a diary point of view, read by this girl in kind of modern times. And really what got me about this book was the girl from modern times. I just disliked her character. She was just whiny, full of herself, and just generally annoying. And it wasn't, to me, I can understand sometimes when it's like that character is written that way on purpose. But I just didn't feel like she had to be quite so annoying. And the rest of the plot wasn't going quick enough for me, and I couldn't finish it. I just wasn't interested in hearing her voice in my head anymore. So I put down that book. And the other book that I put down was a more recent one, which again, this is more of a life stage thing that I might pick it back up, but it's the Alice Network. And I was reading this in the process of moving, so it just didn't hold my attention enough. And I kind of felt like I didn't like the main character. So the person she was being trained to be part of the spy network, the Alice Network. And I found her character to be kind of boring, and I just didn't believe it. And maybe I didn't let the book go long enough, or it was maybe too much of an on-ramp for me to grab my interest, but it just never did. And then I found that character annoying, so I ended up putting it down, and then we were in the process of moving, so I wasn't too enthralled to pick it back up. And then I think I have donated it since then, so I don't have a chance to pick it back up unless I wanted to get it from the library. So those first 6 are my worst books of the year. The other 4, DNFs of the year. All in all, though, I would say it's pretty good. If I put a number of 3-star books on my worst books of the year, it's a good reading year. I would love to know your worst books of the year. I think these are fascinating videos to watch and fascinating to read your comments, to hear just which ones really didn't resonate with you for whatever reason. I just love that. And otherwise, that's all I have for this video. Please consider liking it, subscribing to the channel if you aren't already subscribed, and I will see you in the next book video. All right, take care.